They call my family's century-old farm an eyesore, a stubborn holdout in the middle of their manicured dream. With forged papers and roaring bulldozers, they flattened the barn my great-grandfather had raised with his own 2 hands. It's for a community dog park, the HOA president claimed, smiling for the neighbors as the first benches went in. But tucked behind their glossy flyers and fake good intentions were secret blueprints for luxury condos. What they didn't know was that long before they planted their cul-de-sacs, my grandfather secured the water rights for the entire area. When Cynthia Whitmore, queen of the HOA, ignored me at her ribbon cutting, I twisted a hidden valve my grandfather had built into the irrigation system. By sundown, 200 mansions were going dry. The question was simple. Would I have the courage to wield the legacy my ancestors left to protect everything they built? I'm Frank Hardrove, 55. My family has worked these 15 acres since 1887, when my great-grandfather traded gold coins earned in the coal mines of Pennsylvania for this land. He chose it for its spring-fed soil, a perfect foundation for the farming traditions he'd brought from Europe. My grandfather wasn't content to just plant crops. During the Dust Bowl, he invested 3 years' earnings into an irrigation system that kept both our farm and the county alive. He partnered with state engineers and ensured those rights were locked down in documents no developer could undo. By the 1990s, farms around us were paved over for tennis courts and cul-de-sacs. I struck a deal with Westland Development. My land would remain independent, exempt from any future HOA control. The agreement was signed, filed, and sealed. For 2 decades, I grew organic produce for schools, food banks, and markets. Martha, my wife, and I raised our kids here, teaching them the ways our family had practiced for generations. Then came Cynthia Whitmore, 55, polished, a retired corporate attorney from Chicago with salon-perfect hair and a country club tan. She bought into Meadowbrook Estates and quickly ascended to HOA president. From day one, she targeted my farm. Letters arrived weekly, citing bogus violations. My grandfather's silo was too tall, the historic barn didn't match community standards, and even our roosters, crowing since 1887, were deemed noise pollution. I called zoning. They confirmed what I already knew. The HOA had zero authority over my land. I tried diplomacy. I invited Cynthia to see the farm, the school children planting pumpkins, the veterans group tending lavender. She arrived in a white Range Rover with a camera crew, treating every fence post like evidence of blight. "This isn't personal," she told me with a hollow smile. "We just have to maintain standards. Buyers didn't pay for luxury homes to live next to this." The next day, her old law partner, developer Roger Dalton, offered me $750,000, barely a third of what the land was worth. When I refused, he leaned in with a threat. Things get complicated for stubborn sellers. The pressure campaign escalated. Fines appeared, inspectors were called, animal control harassed us. My lawyer and friend, Bill Rodriguez, fired back with a cease and desist that bought 3 weeks of quiet. Then survey stakes appeared on my tomato fields. April 18th. I'll never forget it. Martha called, panic in her voice. Bulldozers at the property line. I raced home to find fences torn down, heavy equipment rolling toward my barn. The crowd split between horrified neighbors and those applauding. Cynthia stood smugly with forged documents in hand, her brother-in-law, Deputy Mark Collins, by her side. He handcuffed me when I tried to intervene. From the back of his car, I watched the barn collapse into splinters. The building my great-grandfather had raised during the Depression was erased in minutes. But they overlooked my cameras. They captured everything, including Cynthia whispering to the bulldozer operator, "Clear it all out. We need views for the condos." Her arrogance became evidence. When Bill exposed the seizure notice as a forgery, even he, normally calm, boiled with rage. He called it what it was, criminal fraud. At the emergency hearing the next day, Cynthia strutted in with lawyers. The judge, Phillips, a country club buddy of her husband, listened as they claimed my farm had been absorbed by the HOA. But then Bill and I laid down the paper trail, the 1887 deed, the 1912 water rights, the 1994 exemption agreement. Finally, Bill played the footage. Cynthia's voice, for the condos rang in the silent courtroom. The judge, uncomfortable, granted only a temporary injunction. Trial in 3 months. That night, Bill discovered something extraordinary. The 1912 water rights didn't just protect my land, they granted my family legal control over the entire system. Easements allowed the subdivision to use our water, but only if property boundaries and farm rights were respected. Cynthia's bulldozers had shattered those conditions. The clause was clear. With 30 days' notice, I could terminate all residential access. No court approval required. We filed a notice, hand-delivered copies to all 200 homes. Cynthia dismissed it as a bluff. The county won't allow him to shut off water, she told residents. But the county engineer, who had once worked with my grandfather, confirmed privately my rights were airtight. Day 31. The dog park grand opening. Ribbons cut, champagne poured, sprinklers misting the manicured grass. I walked in wearing my work clothes, papers in hand. You built this park on stolen land, I told Cynthia, and you're hiding condo plans behind it. Neighbors turned, listening as I explained. Her smile cracked. I gave him my ultimatum. By sundown, recognize my rights, or lose your water. They ignored me. At dusk, Martha filmed as I turned the valve in my grandfather's stone pump house. By evening, sprinklers sputtered out. By midnight, faucets ran dry. By morning, Meadowbrook was in crisis. No showers, no toilets, lawns withering. Neighbors demanded answers. Cynthia insisted it was illegal, but the county engineer stood before residents and confirmed. Mr. Hardrove acted within his legal rights. The tide turned. By day 3, petitions calling for the HOA board's resignation had signatures from 85% of households. At a packed emergency meeting, I spoke not as an enemy, but as a farmer. I showed them the forged documents, the secret condo emails, the video evidence. I told them, I don't want to punish you. I just want my farm restored. The media storm exposed Cynthia's husband's stock deals with Skyline developers. $250,000 in shares timed perfectly with a bulldozer assault. Outrage spread. By day 5, Judge Elena Ramirez convened a hearing. This is one of the clearest cases of property rights abuse I've ever seen, she said. She urged immediate settlement or face criminal charges. The newly elected board, neighbors now turned allies, agreed. Rebuild the barn, pay damages, and sign binding protection for my farm, forever exempt. When I restored the water that afternoon, cheers broke out. Cynthia resigned, her mansion listed for sale within days. Prosecutors opened a criminal case against her and her partners. The rebuilt barn rose with community hands. Craftsmen recreated its beams, volunteers replanted the lost acre, and school children toured the new agricultural center inside. What began as an attack transformed into unity. We hosted farm dinners under the new rafters, serving produce grown on land once nearly lost. Developers retreated, and the state passed new protections for farms inspired by our case, Hardrove's Law. Standing in that barn with neighbors who had become friends, I realized something my grandfather always knew. Paper rights mean little until someone has the courage to use them. They thought they could erase history with bulldozers. Instead, they awakened a legacy that was stronger than steel and deeper than water itself.